Hi everybody. How are you doing? How are you doing today? You know what? Go get yourself a nice cup of tea. All right? You know, just take it easy today. Just relax. Okay. I don't know how to respond to this. I don't know how to respond to this one. You know what I mean? I was thinking about starting the chapter of like, oh my god, this is crazy. We find out so much stuff. And I mean, like, yeah, we kind of do. But like in typical Oda fashion, when he reveals more about something, we have more questions about something. So, you know, IM goes on a monologue in this chapter, so that's cool. I don't even really know how they speak, so that'll be fun to try to figure that out. Yeah, let's just get into it. Chapter 1085 review titled The Death of Nefeltari Cobra, or Nefertari Cobra. Nefeltari R's and L's, you know how it goes. By the way, spoiler, I mean, come on now, Oda. Cover page is awesome, all right? It's just the fan art request, but it's Frankie guiding a bunch of turtle hatchlings from the beach to the ocean, and he just defeated a giant enemy crab that was trying to devour all the little turtle hatchlings, and Frankie is just like, not on my watch! Boom, boom! Like, all the little turtles are, like, hatching out of their eggs, and it's a glorious sunrise, and, like, the miracle of life and everything like that, and then in the background, Frankie's just brawling with this crab and just like defeated the crab, and then Frankie takes this giant sign that says departure, and he holds the sign out and he's like, onward baby turtles, onward to the safety of the ocean, may your lives be prosperous and full of wonder. And he's like crying in the background, saluting the baby turtles, and the baby turtles are just like, they're not even paying attention to Frankie, they're just going into the ocean. But I love it. I love that cover page. All right. So, chapter begins where it left off, with Im-sama sitting on the empty throne. And Cobra's initial reaction to that, as you can imagine, is just, this is a word you don't get to use very often, flabbergasted. I don't even know the origin of that word, but it's awesome. So, you know, here's Cobra, absolutely flabbergasted, sitting in his wheelchair. The Gorosei are in front of him. All the way up on top of the stairs, you have the empty throne, okay? And you know what? I joked around. Let's talk about the empty throne for a little bit in terms of the symbolism and what that means in the context of the world government of One Piece, okay? This is, as far as you know, an ironclad symbol that has sat at Marijois for over 800 years. And the entire premise of this throne is that no one sits in the throne. Okay, the idea of anybody sitting on the throne would indicate, therefore, it is not led by committee, it is not led by the Reverie Council, all of that just falls apart immediately because there is a single person, a single monarch that is now claiming to be the ruler of the entire world, okay? And you know what, it honestly leads to a bunch of funny scenarios when you really think about it, like the particulars of the empty throne. I tweeted the other day, like, is the empty throne comfortable? Can it recline? Does it have cup holders? You know, is there a back massager? Does it have a heated cushion? You know? And one of the responses to that was like, who cleans the empty throne? You know, it just can't sit there for 800 years. It'd be covered in dust. You know, so that means what, there has to be a janitor. There has to be somebody every couple of weeks or months, or maybe every day, has to go by the empty throne and dust it. And dear Lord, help that person if they ever were to trip and fall and land in the throne. Like, all right, time to dust the empty throne. Oh yes, dusting the empty throne, making sure no one can sit on it, but making sure it looks presentable. Oh, what's that? Oh no! No! I wonder what would happen in that situation. I wonder if, like, Im would just appear out of the ceiling and just be like, you fool! And then, like, devour the janitor and no one ever sees him again. Or, second option, the Gorosei come out and be like, our new ruler! Our new king! And then the janitor's like, what, huh? I don't, okay. First decree. free brooms for everybody. It's like, okay, send out the brooms. You know, all right. But anyway, yeah, Cobra is rather taken aback by this. He's like, this is not right. Processing information. No one should be able to sit on that throne. I was trying to think of a good parallel to our world, like what this would really mean. And I guess the best thing I could have is like aliens, you know, like we just find out all of a sudden that every nation in the planet, every country, that's all just aliens controlling it all. I guess that's literally the closest thing I can get to this, okay? So Cobra's seeing this, and he's thinking to himself, no person in the world should be sitting there. And it's not just that somebody is sitting in the empty throne. It's not just that. It's that the Gorosei, who are the 5 elder stars that are purportedly supposed to be running the world government via council, like an oligarchy, they're in the room with Cobra, and they do not seem perturbed by this. They don't seem shocked. I mean, they were a little shocked that IM would walk into the room while Cobra was still present, but they don't seem to be, like, angry. It's like, oh, you get off the empty throne up there, you! And it's just like, no, they're kind of, like, being subservient. So the gears are clicking, and it's just like, okay, this was the last thing I expected to see today, but someone is sitting on the empty throne. The Gorosei seem fine with this. Oh, no. Oh, no, because the whole fundamental foundation stones of the government is now crumbling apart in Cobra's mind. He's like, okay, so everything I thought about the world government and how the world was structured was a complete lie. All right, that's going to take a couple of moments to process. That's going to take a couple moments loading. All right. So, IM begins speaking. Now, a couple of things to break down with this. Number one, I have no idea what the tone is of IM's speech. Somebody that knows a little bit more about Japanese and like the actual like, okay, formal, informal, kind of in between could maybe let me know about that. IMU refers to themselves in third person, kind of like Hina, or maybe Hina is Im's daughter. I don't know. Hina is always like, oh, you know, the Straw Hats got away again. Hina's angry, very angry, and she's Hina, so she does that thing. There are a couple of other people in, you know, anime that do that. However, IMU does not refer to themselves as IMU. IMU refers to themselves as Mu, okay? So, to break this down a little bit, up until now, the way IMU's name was actually written out was in katakana, with the katakana for I and the katakana for Mu. Okay, that's it. A couple of people have pointed out, actually, this is remarkably similar to the kanji for Buddha, which is not katakana, it's kanji. They just look very, very similar. Okay, so people have brought that up before. Referring to themselves as Mu, Mu in Japanese can refer to a void. It can also refer to as nothingness, emptiness. In Bleach, the lowest level of the underground prison is Muken. I remember Death Note. In Death Note, one of the rules of the Death Note is, the spoilers for Death Note a little bit, is that any human that dies will go to a place called Mu, which is nothingness. It's there. So in the Death Note universe, there's no heaven, there's no hell, there's no afterlife. It's just Mu. It's just void. It's just nothingness. So that's a way. The translator note in this also brings up that Mu can refer to a dream. I think that's when it's used as the word Mu-bi. I think Mu-bi, I think that could refer to being asleep or dreaming. Of course, dreams are very relevant in One Piece, so take that whatever you will. But the Gorosei refer to Im as, you know, Im-sama, great Im, or Imu, and Im themselves refers to themselves in the third person, but only saying Mu. So, Imu sits on the chair, sits on the empty throne, and states, Mu shall now address Nefertari Cobra. I will ask you one question, and I will tell you two things. So, like I said, I'm trying to figure out the tone here, because I'm imagining that, I don't know, there's a scene later in the chapter where I think Im might express rage or anger or surprise, so I guess I'll see what happens there. But here I feel like it's very calculated, very stoic, like almost emotionless. I feel like, and we've already known, like I think the last couple chapters kind of confirmed that Im is 800 years old. We don't know exactly the whole situation with that. Ghost immortal being because of the op fruit, immortal because of some other method, a zombie, a vampire is actually a straight up god or a demigod or a demon in some way. We don't know, but you know, a couple of last chapters kind of set it up, and this one just knocks it out of the park that IM is in fact 800 years old minimal, okay? From something that Cobra is going to say here in a moment. And I know we're like well into the review and we're only like 2 panels into the chapter, but a lot of stuff happens here. I really got to break this down, okay? So I feel like a being that old, like the way they speak, they would lack any sense of emotion or empathy if they ever had it, or seriousness or anything. It would just be not even like giving a crap about the inflection. It would just be like, Mu will now address Cobra, and that's it. You know, more of like they're speaking kind of like a robot. Clearly not the case, I'm just saying similar. Okay, so Mu will give will say 2 things to Cobra, and a single answer must be given. So it's almost like, yeah, Mu is not having, or Emu is not having a conversation with Cobra here. It's like, I'm not talking to you, I'm telling at you. That's how it's gonna go, all right? And you know, that makes sense. If Im is the ruler of the world, Im does not have conversations with people. Im does not sit down for a fireside chat. You know, Im is like, no, I will tell you 2 things, you will give me an answer. That's the transaction here, okay? That's how this is going down, right? So Cobra begins to have a little bit of a coughing fit. It is like processing. Who are you? Wait a second. They called you Emu. That sounds familiar. It could be a coincidence. I don't know why it would be. It could be a coincidence, but one of the 20 families, someone was also called that. And then at that point, Emu is just like, huh. No, you know what? Im doesn't even huh. He doesn't even sigh. It's just, such trivialities mean nothing here, and they will not be dignified with an answer. So, I like, once again, I feel like, yeah, it's not a scoff, it's not a laugh, it's not a sigh, it's not a trivialities. No, it's like, I will not respond to that. Moving on. It's just like, there it is. Like, that's literally, so I gotta say, the presence that Oda is painting with Im now that they are actually speaking, it's a foreboding one. It really is a no-nonsense kind of character where I think Oda specifically was trying, because Oda does this a lot with the characters in ways that you might not even realize. Here's one of them. A few of you might know this. Okay, Luffy, very rarely ever in this series. It's happened a few times, but, you know, very few and far between. Luffy will ever have internal dialogue. Like, very rarely will that ever happen. Well, a character will be like Cobra is thinking here, like, no one is ever supposed to sit on the empty throne. What is going on here? Like, he's thinking that to himself. Luffy very rarely never does that. And one of the SBS questions even brought that up. He's like, hey, Luffy never has internal dialogue. And Oda's like, no, that was intentional. That was very much intentional for the character, okay? So, Oda thinks about this kind of stuff. So I feel like with Im, Oda is really trying to, like, suck any kind of, like, emotion or empathy or even, like, standard human mannerisms kind of taken out of Im. Im does not sigh. Im does not, like, oh, you know, it's like, because that's a very human thing, or like human as we know, and Im is something kind of beyond that. This being that has existed for 800 plus years, okay? So one of the founding families, I either guess, was named Im. That might refer to their given name, or that might refer to their family name. So like Don Quixote, Nefeltari, those names would really ring true to like Cobra immediately. This one he had to kind of think about a bit, but he also might have just been thrown off because Im even sitting on the throne is kind of throwing this whole thing out of whack. So he's got to really, wait a second, wait, your name is Im? That was one of the founders' names. What? Okay. So, you know, Im is not going to respond to that. So we move on here. Im does say, well, I'm not going to answer that question, but I will answer your first query. And that was, what is about the D? What does the D stand for? Now, we don't find out what the will of D means here. Well, Do we though? Okay, I mean, all right. So IM states, D was the name of our ancestors in the past. It was the moniker of our ancient enemy. In recent times, those that bear the name of D pop up more frequently, but they are just a vestige. They are just an echo. They themselves do not know the meaning beyond that name, and yet that irritation continues to endure from days long past, from 800 years ago, from that mistake or from that blunder, okay? Specifically Queen Lily's blunder. All right, so backing that up a bit, we already knew that the D clan, or the clan of D, whatever you want to call them, was probably most likely Joy Boy's clan that fought against the 20 kings or 20 monarchs back in the day. We kind of already knew that. That's confirmed, though. Also interesting that IMU brings up that the name of D has been popping up more often recently. So that's interesting, because obviously the name has been passed down through the centuries. Nobody really nowadays knows what it means. I mean, like Sengoku knows what it means. The Gorosei IM obviously knows what it means. But most people that have the initial of D in their names don't know. Saul even said this to Robin. Saul was like, yeah, my dad had it, he had the D in his name, and it was his father's, and it's been passed down in my family for generations, but nobody really knows what it means anymore. We actually get a flashback later of Sabo, Ace, and Luffy when they were kids, and Sabo brings it up to Ace and Luffy, like, hey, you both have a D in your names, what's going on with that? So we'll get to that. But yeah, so we got Luffy, of course, we got Law. Is there anybody else on here? We got Marshall D. Teach, Blackbeard, he's got it. Gold D. Roger has it. Anybody else over here? Porcus D. Ace has it. Pan D. Man has it. So that's interesting to know that, like, it's been always around throughout history, but more frequently in the last probably 20, 30 years. Maybe a little bit more than 30 years. Maybe in the last 50 years, because you had Roxy Zebek as well, before Roger. And then Roger took over and then was the greatest pirate in the world, and he had the letter D. And then you have Luffy. And I feel like Shanks might have it too, maybe. Possibly, but then we know Shanks is connected to the Figarland family and everything, so maybe not. But anyway, more importantly here, IM mentions that even though those that bear the initial of D don't know what it is, and it's just an echo, that irritation endures because of Queen Lily's mistake that she makes. The so-called scholars of the world also bear this mistake or this irritation, okay, because they study the so-called Void Century and the poneglyphs, okay? I guess this would make sense why IM would say so-called Void Century, because IM obviously knows exactly what happened. IM knows everything from start to finish, okay? The Gorosei probably do too. So to the rest of the world, they refer to it as the Void Century because it's a void. They don't know. But IM on the other... Ooh! I wonder if there's a connection, maybe not, because one of the 20 families existed before the Void Century or during the Void Century. The whole point, the reason why IM refers to themselves as Mu, nothingness, void, Void Century, you know what I'm saying here? Like maybe there's some connected to that, but that might just be more of like maybe like a meta, connection, like something like, breaking the fourth wall kind of a connection, maybe not a connection in the actual story. IM states that if it wasn't for the mistake or the actions of Queen Lily, then there would have been no poneglyphs out in the world, no pirates chasing after them. Those vexing relics would have never existed. They would have never been scattered all over the world, okay? So the reason why the poneglyphs are where they are right now, where they've been scattered all over the world, the Rio poneglyphs, the Lode poneglyphs, the regular poneglyphs, seems to be all because of Lily. Now we know the people that actually created the poneglyphs, physically made them, were the Kozuki Gorosei clan, which were a clan of stonemasons that existed way back in the day. They're the ones that actually physically carved the stones and made them indestructible out of some kind of rock or mineral. Maybe it's related to sea prism, who knows? It's been a debate whether sea prism is the thing the poneglyphs are made out of, because like Robin can touch them and stuff and she doesn't get weaker. So maybe it's related, or some other mineral, or something they did to the mineral. Maybe it could have been because of some devil fruit power way back in the day, or some kind of ability that made those stones indestructible. They might have carved them out of regular rock, but then it was like maybe Lily's ability or somebody's ability that touched the rocks and made them indestructible. Okay, something along those lines. So IM is obviously, this is where IM's, I would imagine their cadence begins to agitate a little bit. Although then again, I can't really tell. So maybe at this point, IM's cadence becomes a little bit more like, those vexing relics, they truly annoy me to no end. You know, like they truly annoy Moo to no end. You know, something along those lines there, okay? The release of the poneglyphs was the worst possible outcome for us. So I have to wonder, was it a mistake at all? All right, so let's talk about, or part of some larger plan. Okay, so let's talk about the verbiage that is used here. Mistake, blunder, accident. That seems to be the general vibe that he's referring to Lily's actions at first. Now, I don't think blunder is used in the context here of like a genuine accident. Like Lily did something that she did not intend to do. Like the janitor accidentally flipping over and falling on the empty throne. Like, oops, that's an accident. I didn't mean to do that. No, I think IM might be referring to blunder or mistake, as in Lily had an action that she was committed to that action, but in the eyes of everyone, and IM included, it was a mistake. So in this context, I think it was the fact that Lily did not bow down before IM. Lily did not plunge her sword into the empty throne. That's the mistake. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't like something that Lily did not intend to do and it had happened just by happen chance or luck or fate or whatever. No, it was like Lily did not plunge her sword into the empty throne. Therefore, it was a mistake for her. You know, something like that. That was the mistake that led to all this. Okay. Also, a lot of people have brought up, because last time I talked about like, oh, the monarchs were, you know, putting the swords in front of the empty throne, pledging their loyalty to the idea that no one person will sit on the throne. And Lily was like, I'm not messing with this. And then she leaves. I think what makes more sense, and a lot of people brought it up, is that, you know, 800 years ago when that ceremony was actually occurring, it wasn't about putting the sword in front of an empty throne. No, IM decided 800 years ago, I'm calling the shots here. I'm sitting on the throne. You all take, all the other 19 of you, you take out your swords and your axes and your weapons, and you put it right in front of my throne as a show of respect and loyalty to me. And then, so if IM is one of the 20, then you had 19 other people. So 18 of those 19 pledged their loyalty to IM unconditionally. And then Lily was the last person that decided, nope. And then either dropped her sword or threw it away or sheathed it and took it with her, and she left. And so that is the mistake that IM is referring to here. You have made a grand mistake this day, Queen Lily. He's like, yeah, whatever, don't care. Yeah, whatever, I don't care. And just walks out. All right. So that's what I think IM is referring to in the context of a mistake or a blunder, okay? So then Cobra's there kind of completely enraptured by IM speaking, still probably trying to process this all. Like, I am just speaking to the ruler of the entire world now, who apparently has been around for 800 years. This is... Even in a world with magical devil fruits and hockey and dragon ducks, this is, oh man, this is a lot to take in right here. Meanwhile, the Gorosei are, they're packing heat. The Gorosei are like, yeah, okay, great, Im-sama, you just continue that conversation. Like, I imagine at this point, Cobra's like looking over at the Gorosei and they're like loading their guns and just like, alright, yeah, okay, that's how that's going. So they're all pulling out their guns. I think, yeah, okay, alright. Four of them 4 of them are pulling out their guns. Samurai Gandhi puts his hand on his sword. Now that's important because, let's see, where is the Sandai over here? Well, I don't have Sandai's buried, but I do have the Nidai in lovely lavender finish. So the common understanding, and we actually do get to see the guard pretty up close here, and it looks exactly like the guard that's indicative of, you know, the Kitetsu blades. I feel like most people probably understood that Samurai Gandhi has a sword. He knows how to use it. I think most people were under that idea. But here, that's confirmation on that right now. Like, the fact is, 4 of the 5 Gorosei are pulling out guns, ready to, you know, kill Cobra. And Samurai Gandhi alone reaches for his blade. Which, okay, to be fair, Cobra is like, I don't know, a 60-year-old man who can't walk that's in a wheelchair. It doesn't really, you don't really need to have skill with the blade. You don't need to be Dracul Mihawk to kill Cobra, you know what I mean? So, I'm assuming, though, he knows how to use the thing. I'm assuming it's not just like, I will now finish you off. You know, just hold still, hold still, hold still. I haven't used this thing before. It just looks cool. Hold on a second. All right, just gonna line that up with your heart really quick and just, I'm sorry, I think I hit your lung. Hold on. Oh, that was your kidney. I am way off. I'm sorry. Hold on a second. You know, just, it's the first time I've ever killed someone with a sword. Hold on. You know, no, I don't think that's the case. Clearly, Samurai Gandhi has to, you know, the knowledge to use a sword, is a swordsman, and it is most likely the Shodai Kitetsu, okay, the first generation Kitetsu. There's actually something else in this chapter that also kind of lends to that, so, yeah. So, yeah, the Gorosei are preparing to finish off Cobra here. Now, IM continues and says, that letter that you spoke about, so this is the question. This is the question that IM is proposing to Cobra that he must answer, okay? And so, he says, or they say, you know, the letter that she left, Lily, you refer to her as merely Queen Lily Nefeltari. However, I don't think that's what was written in the letter. You lied about what her real name was, did you not? And so go ahead and divulge her full name for all of us to hear, as it was written in that letter. And so Cobra... Alright, so, like, when Cobra was wheeled into this room, I asked a question, I think it was last review or the review before that, where it was like, do you think Cobra knows that he's not going to leave this room? Do you think Cobra is prepared to die? I think most people said, yeah, he is aware. Some people were like, no, I don't think he's expecting to die. Right here, it seems to give the impression that he was prepared to die. He's like, they got me. I guess there really is, I'm not getting out of here alive. So maybe he wasn't 100% sure, but maybe there was a voice in his head when he was going into this room to question what he thought to be the 5 rulers of the world. He's like, if I ask them the wrong question, I might not walk out of here alive, or I might not wheel out of here alive, you know? Maybe not, maybe, I don't know. Now he's certain. So I think he's resigned himself a little bit to his fate, okay? He's like, all right, yeah, there's no way I'm getting out of here. And Cobra, I mean, he makes a plea. I mean, you gotta try, right? I mean, you're not just gonna go along into that gentle good night without even raising a little bit of an objection to it. So Cobra is an educated man. He's not gonna beg. He's not gonna grovel. He's not gonna be like, you know, fall out of his wheelchair and be like, oh, please, great ruler of the world, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to ask any questions. Just let me go. I won't say a word. Please don't kill me. You know, he's not gonna resort to that. He's not that pathetic. He just kind of, I mean, he is sweating at this point. Cobra's like, oh boy. Yeah, so he does look up and he just kind of, I would assume, like, glances at the Gorosei and IM and is just like, all right, look, there's nothing I can say to you all to get me to leave, right? And Gorbachev, the dude with the giant mustache and the Gorbachev, like, esque birthmark he has, he's just kind of like, yeah, no, your fate was decided the moment great Im-sama walked into this room. And Cobra's like, yeah, okay, I figured. I mean, at least he made the plea. At least he's like, is there anything I could say to you guys? Hold on a moment. That would make you let me go. The Gorosei are like, what's the secret cool guy handshake? You could be maybe part of the club. We'll be the 6 Elder Stars if you know the secret cool guy Gorosei handshake. And then it's just like, Cobra's just in the chair, just sweating and just, I'm waiting. Old man. How do you do? Fine, and you? Okay, he's in, but I'm not happy about it. Everybody back to your regular positions. That would be funny. But, like, no, obviously, he's not getting out of here alive. So, Cobra's like, okay, sunk cost fallacy at this point. It's just like, all right, they're not gonna let me leave with the knowledge that the world's the symbol, the foundation of the world government is a complete lie. So they're not gonna let me go. All right, so meanwhile, you have Sabo, who's just chilling out behind a pillar. He's been in the room the entire time. All right, which, oh, by the way, that actually speaks a lot of volumes about this, okay? Now listen, Sabo is a secret agent. He's Secret Agent Sabo. He's Agent 0OS, right? So I would imagine, given his profession as a Revolutionary Army, as Chief of Staff, he's good at being stealthy. All right, he rolled a crit on this, okay? But how stealthy can you be to really avoid observation hockey? So the fact that Sabo has been in the room the entire time, he's not even that far away from the meeting. Like, okay, he's not right next to them. I would imagine he's behind a pillar that's maybe like, I don't know, man, like a couple dozen yards away from the group. I mean, he looks behind the pillar and they're right over there. I mean, if they're not super far away, he's hearing everything that's happening. IM hasn't noticed him. The Gorosei haven't noticed him, so it's like, all right, if IM is supposed to be this great deity that maybe might have some, like, crazy powerful hockey, apparently his observation's kind of lacking here. Although, later on, there's something else that would indicate against that. So maybe it's just all their attention is focused on Cobra right now, and so they're not noticing Sabo. Or maybe Sabo is just so stealth. He rolled that perfect. It's like William with the stealth roll. It's like I rolled a crit plus 10, I got 30 stealth. Perfect. Flawless. Okay, maybe, all right? So Sabo's there, and he's listening to everything, and he's like, all right, wow, the atmosphere... Wow, that was a sudden tone shift right there as soon as the weird dude with the cloak walked in. Oh man, that's strange. All right, so Cobra begins, he resumes, he says, yes, in truth, that letter was signed by Queen Nefeltari D. Lily. So Lily D. Nefeltari, or Nefeltari D. Lily, however you want to, arrange the letters. But Lily had the will of D, which means that her descendants kind of do too, which means Vivi has the will of D. That's significant. That's a big deal, okay? Cobra does as well. I guess I also want to say, you don't actually have to have the letter D in your name to carry the will of D, all right? You just have to be a man to have a D, to have, you understand what I'm, okay. So, yeah, all right. So, no, you just have to carry on the legacy. Like Odin, perfect example to this, okay? Kozuki Odin, I like to think in the culture in Wano, middle names or middle initials just didn't exist as the culture, as like how they named their children. So, Sukiyaki did not name his son with a middle initial, because that's just not what happened. But, make no mistake, Odin still carried the will of D. He even died with a smile on his face, okay? So even though, the letter D might not actually be in Cobra's name or Vivi's name, that doesn't matter. They still carry the will of D, all right? Because they're carrying on that legacy of their ancestors. So there you go, right? Okay, so this is where things get confusing. After Cobra, as soon as Cobra says the name, like Nefeltari D. Lily, IM's eye kind of narrows. Now, in one of the panels here, I don't think this is what actually happened. I think it's just because IM is completely in silhouette. You understand. All we see of IM are their eye, and then just the silhouette, and then what's behind them, okay? So it's kind of hard to make out in the manga. It looks like in one of these little panels, there's a bead of sweat, like next to IM's eye. Like IM, like Nefeltari D. Lily, bead of sweat, but I don't think it is. I think it's just like the fact of it, because it's all in black and white, so it's just the silhouette, and then maybe where like part of their face, is like from the background. I don't think it's them actually sweating. I don't think that's the case, or them crying, or I mean, it could be a tear too, but it doesn't look like a tear. It's not like coming directly out of their eye. It's like, here's their eye, and it's like the mark is like right here. So it doesn't really work. I don't think it's supposed to be a tear or a bead of sweat. I don't think it's that. But IM's eye does narrow at that D. and then a shadowy arrow like thing, maybe like, it honestly looks like a devil's tail, like the tail of a devil that has like a pointy end, appears to the left of Cobra and stabs right through him, okay? So there was a little bit of, okay, so I don't think IM did that. I think that was one of the Gorosei, all right? Because things are going to get confusing here in a moment, because there's going to be a lot of shit happening, all right? So Cobra's there sitting. The Gorosei, I want to get the order of the Gorosei. All right, so we have Cobra in the center with IM on top of the staircase on the empty throne, okay? And then to Cobra's left, to his immediate left, is Saint J. Garcia, then Sanji's uncle, the dude that's like the youngest member of the Gorosei, and then Samurai Gandhi on his left. And then the other two are on his right. Gorbachev, the dude with the birthmark and the giant mustache, and then I think I've called him Gonfal's brother, or maybe just call him Gandalf, because he kind of looks like Gandalf. So then, you know, you have Gandalf on there. So he has 3 Gorosei on his left, 2 Gorosei on his right. Pay attention to that, because things are going to get confusing. All right, so this arrow, or this tail-like appendage, the thing that stabs Cobra, comes from his left, which would indicate the person that is the most likely to have done that was Saint J. Garcia Saturn, because he was the one to the immediate left of Cobra. All right, now, as Cobra gets stabbed with that, at the same time, Sabo jumps out of behind the pillar and fire fists the Gorosei point blank. You know what? And then, without missing a beat, Sabo follows that up with another technique called smothered mate, which is a shogi term. It's like a Japanese chess term. And then he launches that attack straight up the stairs at IM. You know what, Sabo? None of this is gonna work. None of this is gonna kill anybody, but I have to commend the hustle. I have to commend the hustle here. It's like Sabo is behind the pillar, and he understands. I mean, he doesn't understand everything, but he gets the gist of it. Like, all right, the Gorosei were supposed to be at the top of the world, but they were not. Turns out this dude in the black cloak is the ruler of the world. You know what? I'm just gonna burn them all. You know what? It's almost like Sabo realized, oh, these are the final bosses. These are the people, these are the puppet masters that have been orchestrated everything. This is like IM is like orchestrating the Gorosei, and the Gorosei are controlling everybody. You know what? I'm just gonna burn them all. I'm just gonna finish this off right away. So you gotta commend Sabo, all right? He just, not even questioning it. He doesn't even have a moment where it's like, where's my Sabo hat? There it is. It's just like, you know, he has a moment where he steps out behind the pillar, like, so Cobra gets stabbed, and the Gorosei are, like, loading their guns, and they're about to, like, finish him off, and then all of a sudden, Sabo just walks out from behind the pillar, really cool, like, well, what do we have here? And the Gorosei are like, Sabo, Chief of Staff of the Revolutionary Army! And then IM's like, what? And then Sabo's like, yes, indeed I am, Sabo of the Revolution. And what do we have here? The 5 Gorosei taking orders from someone on the empty throne. My boss would be lovely to see or hear about this. Yeah, no. Sabo's just like, all right, I'm just, boom! You know, also Cobra's been stabbed. Gotta get him out of there, so that's a thing. This is where Sanji's uncle, you know, he kind of notices Sabo. He's like, what? And then, boom, fire fist! And so hits all 5 of the Gorosei with the fire fist, and then he shoots another fire stream up at the empty throne right for IM, okay? And this is where IM seems to get mad. This is where IM's eyes really go. So I think that's what Oda's really going for here. There's no facial expressions other than the eyes. So, you know, IM's eyes go even more Rinnegan. They were kind of Rinnegan to begin with, but they're even more Rinnegan now. Actually, it actually does look exactly like the Rinnegan. IM's eyes narrow like in anger of just like, where did this one come from, kind of a thing. And so then a shadowy being emerges and devours the fire. So Sabo, like, fire fist, and then, like, underhands a fire stream right at IM, and then this being emerges and, like, and just, like, devours the fire, okay? Was that being, was the shadowy creature that devoured the fireball, was that IM?
Okay, so I had to take a really good look at this panel, just to make sure. Yes, it was Eam that stopped the smoldering flame, the attack that Sabo shot up toward the empty throne, because you clearly see. I mean, not clearly; it's kind of off to the side, but you see part of Eam's eye. It's very clearly Eam's eye, and it's not the same kind of ways that the Gorosei's eyes are depicted later when they transform. So yeah, basically, Sabo fired this shot at Eam. Eam opened their mouth. It's like a very jagged, like a shark kind of thing, and just kind of like, gulp, and just like eats the fire and extinguishes it. So that's the situation there. It's still very difficult, and you'll see throughout the rest of the review, it's kind of hard to keep track of all these like amorphous silhouette blobs that are just all like bouncing around and doing a bunch of stuff. So it gets a little confusing, but it was Eam that stopped the attack, yeah.
In the following scene, we have all 5 of the Gorosei, at least we could assume. We see 5 shadows of the Gorosei all taking various forms, okay? And some of them are harder to describe than others. One of them is just a bird. One of them actually looks very similar to Morgan's. So that form, just like a bird, we see a beak, we see a wing, okay? But they're all in silhouette, so we only see the shape of their body and their eyes, and that's it. The one to the left of the bird that's kind of on the stairs is like this giant blob, which I don't think that's supposed to be Eam. I think that's supposed to be a member of the Gorosei that survived the Fire Fist, didn't even care about the Fire Fist. You know how like the empty throne is on that giant pedestal, like you gotta walk up a bunch of stairs to get to the throne? This thing is like climbing on top of those staircases, that pedestal, and it's pretty large, okay? Then we have another one that has a long neck that looks like it has a stream coming off of it, kind of like Luffy's Gear 4th or Gear 5th, like the Neo statue kind of has the stream, kind of like every Awakened zone. Although this one looks more like clouds than it does like Lucci's and Kaku's that were fur, but we just can't tell. So that's probably an Awakened mythical zone, I would assume. And then we have one that looks devilish, like looks like just a very large and squat devil with large curved devil horns coming off of it. And its eyes look very sad and like just like, ugh. And then the last one is to the right of the bird, and I can't even tell what this thing even looks like. I think this thing also has like a tail or something coming off of it. It's really hard to tell. The ears kind of look like wings. You know how like in Greek mythology you have Hermes or Mercury, the messenger of the gods. He wears that helmet that has oh my god, I didn't even, oh, okay, sorry, I had a brain blast for a moment. I was like, oh, that kind of reminds me of Mercury's helmet. Wait a second, the Gorosei are named after named after planets. Holy, okay, give me a second here. I think I stumbled upon that by accident. I didn't even try to do that. It's like, okay, all right, that makes sense. Okay, if the Gorosei are all named after planets and Roman gods, so we have Saint J. Garcia Saturn, then we have someone named after Mercury, and they have ears or feathers or whatever they are. They look like, you know, wings on a helmet, which is indicative of Mercury or Hermes, who is the messenger of the gods. All right, there we go. There we have that. All right, so wait a minute though. Now I have to process something else. Okay, so Mercury, Venus, and then I'm guessing we're skipping Earth. Then we have Mars and Jupiter, and then Saturn is Saint J. Garcia Saturn, because Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto are all ancient weapons. The sun is Luffy, sun god. The moon might be Blackbeard. And then the Earth itself might be Eam. So, yeah, we're looking for Mercury, which is probably the person on the right. And then we're looking for Mars, which is representative of war. So maybe the demon. Jupiter, who's really big, king of the gods. That might be the one on the staircase. So that would lead Venus to be the one that has the awakened zone idea. Then the bird. You know what? Actually, maybe Venus represents the bird, and then the one that has the the Neo steam ring around its neck, maybe that is Saturn. If you're just going literal with it, like Saturn has rings, so the person that embodies Saturn, so Saint Che Garcia Saturn, has, you know, a ring around them, but it doesn't really look like their body shape. But then again, they're all transforming, so it doesn't really fit with that. Yeah, I'm not really sure about that there. And going by the position at which they were standing, if we're just going by that, the position they were standing in when Sabo attacked, then the demon would be Saint Che Garcia Saturn. The one with the ring around their neck, that would have been Sanji's uncle. The big dude would have been Samurai Gandhi. The bird would have been Gonfal's brother, Gondorf. And then the dude with the Mercury wings would have been Gorbachev. If we're going with that angle. But I think some of them moved because, you know, Sabo threw a fire fist in their face. That might have knocked them out of formation. And then one of them jumped up. I don't think the big one would have been Samurai Gandhi. That doesn't make sense for me for the big one to be that. Maybe, you know, maybe the demon, because Kotetsu is a demon, so maybe that's the ability there. We don't even know if these are devil fruits. We're assuming there's probably like mythical zones and stuff, like super legendary fruits, but they might be something else altogether, you know, because these are the Gorosei we're talking about here. But yeah, we're seeing the silhouettes of all of them, so I'm going to move on because there's a lot more other stuff to cover. But like, yeah, I think at least the one that has the feather, that's Mercury, that's Hermes. So there you go, there's the reference there. Let's see, Sabo arrives and he was like, yeah, I was hoping to take all of you guys out at once, but I did not expect this to happen. So wait, was Sabo there just to assassinate all 5 members of the Gorosei? Like, Sabo's like, well, I'm running through Castle Pangaea, I might as well just assassinate the rulers of the world while I'm here. I mean, why not, right? They are Tenryubito, so there you go. But then this is also because Sabo lands right in front of Cobra's body, and he's not dead yet, but he's, you know, bleeding out. And that's when the Den Mushi takes the picture on the wall, which then relays the information back to Morgan's. He gets the picture, and that's where the paper comes from, okay? So, Cobra's there on the ground, bleeding out, and he's like, ha, wait a second. You're Sabo, Revolutionary Army. He's like, yeah, don't worry, I'm here to help you. He's like, oh, okay, that's cool. Hey, do you know Luffy? Yeah, I know Luffy. He's my brother. Oh, cool. He saved my kingdom once. He punched a crocodile through a tomb. Yeah, that's my little brother. All right, let's get you out of here, old man. You know, and so Sabo and Cobra, they get acquainted very quickly. They know who they all both know Luffy. So Sabo grabs Cobra, and they book it out of there. While Sabo is running away, there is this badass scene of just all 5 of the Gorosei in these monstrous forms. Like, the bird doesn't even look like an actual bird. The bird looks like it has the neck of a crane or like a swan, where it's like this super long neck that's like craning over them. But I don't know, Oda might also be deliberately distorting these images to give us a full depth of like, okay, you have literally just went into the den of the 6 strongest beings in the entire world, the 5 Gorosei plus IM. They are not going to let you just leave. And so as Sabo grabs Cobra and begins to run out of the chamber, it's like you have 6 Satans just chasing after you, like, whoa, you're not gonna escape, you know, like the terror and the goosebumps that you would feel of like, there is like the horrible eldritch Cthulhuoid monsters of Relaya are like right behind you and they don't want you to leave, you know, like that's the like level of terror here, okay? So Sabo's trying to get out of there, and Cobra's like, yeah, you gotta leave me, Sabo. I'm not gonna make it till sunrise. You gotta pass down a message, though, to Vivi and Luffy. They need to know that we share the title of D. Sabo, you need to tell them we're all the D. The D is all of us. The D is forever. Sabo, you need to tell them. So Sabo hears this, and he instantly, when he hears like the title of D, like, you need to let Vivi and Luffy specifically know that we're all the same. We have the will of D. And so then Sabo flashes back to when they were at, Dawn Island at Mount Kolbo in the forest, when they were all kids, Sabo, Ace, and Luffy. Now, this is something that makes sense because one night while they were just hanging out having dinner, Sabo noticed, he's like, wait a second. Luffy, Ace, you guys are not actually biological brothers. And they're like, no, we have different dads. He's like, right, yeah, but you both have the middle initial D, and you don't know what it means either. So isn't that a little weird? And Ace goes on and is just like, oh, well, I could give you the D initial if you want. You could be Sad D Bo. And then Sabo's like, why did you just add it in like that? That doesn't even make sense, you know? And they just kind of laugh about it as kids, which I think might be, I don't know if that's Oda, you know, having fun with it, because a running theme in the fandom with One Piece is to add the Will of D into characters' names that's not there. Like, my favorite is Kaido. It's Kai D-O, or it's Buggy D Clown, you know? And I think Oda might actually be kind of going along with that idea, because Ace says here in the flashback, who cares? A name's just a name. Once again, referring to literally having the D initial in your name doesn't really matter all that much. I mean, look at Blackbeard, for God's sake, right? Blackbeard has the D in his name. He's not gonna, like, bring peace and prosperity to the world or whatever. I'm sure Blackbeard's ambitions are not in line with, like, Lily's ambitions of what, like, Joy Boy intended 800 years ago. As Whitebeard even said, it's not you, Teach. You know, you're not the one that Roger's waiting for, you know? So it's not about the actual name. It's not about having the initial. It's about who you are. It's about the actions that you take. You know, Luffy's actions as a pirate. Sabo's actions as a revolutionary. You know, Saul's actions, because Saul was, you know, he had the Will of D too, as a Marine. Garp is a Marine. It's not about what faction you're part of. It's not about if you have the initial in your name. It's about your actions. Those are the things that are going to change the world, okay? Not names. Also, I'm thinking maybe at this point, Oda's kind of giving us a thing that's like, it doesn't really matter what the D stands for. Like, the literal meaning of what the D stands for, that's not going to be a big deal. It matters of what, like, the symbolism of it, so to speak, okay? And we'll get to that in a moment here. So, that's just a nice little flashback where Sabo reminisces, and he's like, okay, that's what the D is, and, like, Ace had that, and Luffy had it in their names, but, like, what does that really mean and everything like that? The tail appears again, it stabs Cobra a second time, and it gets Sabo as well, so Sabo's like, ah, damn, you know, you cut me. It's not like a serious, you know, injury, he's not gonna die, but he does get cut, and he drops Cobra. Cobra hits the ground, and he gets up, and he can barely stand because he needed the wheelchair, but he can stand, and he's just like, ugh, okay, the poneglyphs must be protected. Fly the flag that heralds the dawn into the new world, Sabo! And then he, like, holds up his body so Sabo can escape, and then he says, Nefeltari D. Lily. So the contents of the letter, and part of there's a roar that kind of covers this up. I don't know if it's Eames' roar or one of the Gorosei, but they're just like, as Cobra is reading off the letter to Sabo so he can take that information and bring it to Luffy and Vivi, you know, somebody roars over it like, you know, the poneglyphs must be protected at all, roar! You know, at all costs, you know. Fly the flag that heralds the world's eventual dawn. Sincerely yours, Nefeltari D. Lily. And he just kind of, like, thinks to himself, he's like, I'm counting on you, Sabo. And then that's where Cobra dies, and we cut away from that. So Sabo, we don't actually see the final attack that kills Cobra. I mean, they might have lopped off his head or, like, cut out his heart. It might have been pretty grisly. And so he's like, King Cobra! And then as Cobra's falling, he's like, you must live on. And I think that one, I mean, it might have been referring to Sabo as well, but I think that one was referring to Vivi. I think Vivi, he was referring to his daughter, like, daughter, you must live on, okay? All right, so here's an idea, and it's nothing that's really all that clever. This is a theory that's, you have to understand, pretty much every person that ever even likes One Piece, not even, like, makes videos about it online, but anybody that's ever read this story has had an idea of what the D stands for, right? I mean, it's like, oh, I wonder what the D stands for. And one of the most common ones that are out there is just Dawn. It stands for Dawn. D-A-W-N, the dawn of the new world. It's pretty simple, it's direct, and here we have the flag that heralds the world's eventual dawn. There's another theory that exists out there. I did not come up with any of this, okay? This is something that's been around for a while. The idea... Look at the Straw Hat Jolly Roger really quick here. Look at the Straw Hat Jolly Roger. What does the Straw Hat look like? it looks like the sunrise. I think that might have been what Oda was going for. The red band reminiscing of like the sun coming up over the horizon, or maybe the sun coming up over the red line, to be more specific. So sun comes up, sun rises, this is the horizon line, maybe this is the red line, and then this is the top part, the sun, that rises over it. And so the flag that heralds the world's eventual dawn is the flag of the Straw Hat Pirates, is the sigil of the Straw Hats. They're, of course, the main characters. Luffy will be king of the pirates someday, and that flag will fly over the world, representing the dawn of a new age. So if we just literally found out what the Will of D stands for, and it's just dawn, I mean, like, I don't even really know about that, honestly. I don't really know how to feel about that. It was like the most obvious thing, but at least it wasn't, at least Oda didn't try to throw us a curveball that meant nothing. Like at the end of Game of Thrones on who became the king. I'm not going to spoil it, but, you know, it's like, oh, there's so many people that the king could be. Oh, it's this person now. Oh, that, lovely. You know what I mean? So it's like, it might not be. That might not be what the D stands for. It might not just stand for dawn. But if it does stand for dawn, it's not just about what it stands for. It's about, you know, the actions that the people that carry that moniker, whether it be literally in their name or just symbolically, they carry the ambition, the drive, the will, the inherited will, like Odin did, you know, and them slowly paving the way for a new era. Every time a member of the Will of D dies, they have a smile on their face. And I think it's because they die with a smile on their face, knowing that they are a foundation stone. They know they can die peacefully knowing that they tried their best and their actions will eventually lead to a new era. When Ace died with a smile on his face, the idea maybe he had a smile on his face, yeah, he was thinking of Luffy, yeah, he was thinking of Sabo and Garp and Dadan and all the people that he loved, but also he just kind of had a peace kind of come over him. Like, my death is not just going to be forgotten. My death's not just going to be in vain. My death is going to serve a very important purpose for the changing of the world, okay? That's how it goes. That's how it goes, right? Okay. Now, I think we pan away for a little bit. Oh, I guess we do see Cobra's dead body there, so I guess we didn't see him cut off the neck or cut off the head, so he probably just got stabbed again and he died. So he's dead on the floor, and the amorphous blobs are around him, and they're like, bloop, 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 and then they're like, who's there? And they look over to one of the brick walls in the throne room, and there's this little tiny peephole, this little tiny crack in the wall that's just barely big enough to, like, look through. And on the other side of that in the hallway is Wapol. And Wapol loses his shit. He's like, what? Oh, no, because Wapol's like, oh no, Cobra's dead, so that's good. He was a piece of shit. But, oh no, they found out. I didn't want to see that. I did not want to see what just happened in there. Oh, the Gorosei are weird monsters. There's a ruler of the world. Who was that guy? Oh my god, they're not going to let me live. They are going to hunt me down to the end of the earth. Oh my god, that's not good. So Wapol being typical Wapol, he's like, he saw some shit he wasn't supposed to see, and he instantly understands the ramifications of that. All right? So Wapol would have been, by the way, if IM would have just busted down that wall, or one of the Gorosei just busted down the wall and like, Wapol would have been the one to be like, oh please, don't do it, I'm so sorry. You know, he would have been the one to grovel, but he instead decides to just book it. And, you know, gotta give it to him, the sense of, you know, the sense of self-preservation Wapol has. He doesn't sit around to ask questions about himself. He picks a direction and he runs, and he eats through anything that's getting in his way. He's making a direct line, a direct shot. He's escaping Marijois. It doesn't matter what's going to happen, all right? So now it's interesting that the Gorosei or IM or whoever notices someone else not in the room. Sabo was behind the pillar right over there. They didn't notice him until he popped out. But Wapol, who's behind like several feet of brick and looking through a tiny little peephole that you can, I mean, honestly, you can barely make it out, and the amorphous blobs are like, who's there? So maybe they were focused more on Cobra then, but now after the events happened and Sabo escaped, maybe they're broadening their observation hockey and they notice there's somebody sitting behind that wall. Or maybe they just, you know, Sabo rolled the crit, He got the 20 plus 10 stealth. Wapol's stealth cannot be very good, ladies and gentlemen, all right? Wapol's stealth cannot be high. He failed, and it's like a -2, all right? So it's like you get noticed between 5 feet of bricks somehow. They notice you. As it happens, all right? You're just that unstealthy. So Wapol begins to book it. Then we cut over to the roundtable conference very briefly, where they're like, where is Cobra and Wapol? They're not here. And then somebody says, yes, we received word that King Cobra of Alabasta and King Wapol of the evil Black Drum Kingdom, can't believe he called it that, they will not be attending today. So, you know, just continue the discussion as always. So we see the chairman Hamburger there of the Bollywood Kingdom, and he's like, yes, maybe Cobra's speech on the abolishment of the warlords drained him. And another one of the rulers is like, well, the warlords were already abolished, so therefore there's no reason for Cobra to attend. He must have realized his job was done and left. Now, when it comes to King Riku, Dold III, and Neptune, they're not so confident. They're like, something's going on here. There's a reason why Cobra's not here. Why is he not attending this meeting, right? And they just kind of continue on. There's like, we now continue with the next article on our board here. This is concerning the coalition of the 4 nations of the North that wish to be independent. Yes. Am I the only one that wants to hear more about the 4 nations from the North that want to be independent? Does that mean 4 nations from the North that want to be independent from the world government? Like the 4 nations that are actively deciding to leave the government? That's a big deal. Or maybe 4 nations that were under another kingdom that decide to be independent from that kingdom because there's like subservient kingdoms and stuff. Maybe. I don't know. I kind of want to learn more about that. I want to read more about the politics. Go back. No. All right. Well, anyway, we cut over to see the Neptune brothers and Shirahoshi after the attack with Charlos. So she's okay. Shirahoshi's fine. They're heading back to the Red Port to just wait for their father. Shirahoshi's like, I didn't get to say goodbye to Vivi. I hope she's okay. I wonder where she went, right? So now we do cut over to see what's up with Vivi. Vivi, I guess, was, she was at the Red Port with Lucci. Lucci, I guess, grabbed her, tied her up, and brought her back to Pangaea Castle. So she is tied up to a chair right now in a room in the castle with the former members of Cipher Pol 9, now the current members of Cipher Pol Aegis 0. We saw them a few chapters ago outside of the realm of the gods watching the battle between the admirals, right? So we see Jabra and Khalifa. They both have title cards to reintroduce themselves. It's nice to see Jabra again. I always thought he was a pretty cool character. Blueno's also there. Fukuro, Kumadori, they're all in the background at a table just having dinner, and Vivi's there just kind of tied to a chair, and so they're like, do not worry, princess, no one knows that you're here. In fact, if anybody else finds out you're missing, you'll probably just be a pet for the rest of your life. And Jabra's just like, yeah, just don't be asking any questions, quit being so forward. But they do confirm that Shirahoshi's okay, and Jabra does go on to explain that after Leo and Sai attacked Charlos, they declared themselves, we are proud members of the Straw Hat Grand Fleet! And then I guess they left. Seriously, like, Leo is whatever, but, like, Sai is a member of the Kano Kingdom. The Kano Kingdom's emperor is at Reverie. So, did Sai just declare, like, I am a member of the Straw Hat Grand Fleet, one of the emperors? Well, I guess Luffy wasn't an emperor yet, because this was before Wano. But I am a member of Straw Hat's Grand Fleet. Bye! And then just Sai leaves the Reverie? Like, the Kano Kingdom emperor is still there, just like, I had no idea. That was not I did not have anything involved with that. And it's like, all right. It's just like, and then it's like, you can sit at the round table. That was weird, but you said you weren't involved, so whatever. So there's little strange things with Sai, because, like, he was a member of the Happo Navy, which was, like, I guess working under the Kano Kingdom, but, like, Don Chinjiao was the former leader of the Happo Navy, and he has an active bounty of 500 million. You'd think the government would not want Sai. It'd be like, all right, Sai, you're the current new leader of the Happo Navy, which was a pirate crew. And actually, the former leader of the Happo Navy still has a current bounty. All right, I guess you can come into Marijua, why not? I don't know, that always bugged me with Sai a little bit there, why they just let him in without questioning him or anything. I was like, hey, aren't you a pirate? Like, no. I'm like, all right, come on in. So, let's see, Jabra's there and is just kind of like watching Vivi and is like, what's going on with this year's reverie? A lot of stuff are blowing up. Oh, Fujitora let the slaves get away, so Fujitora and Aramaki kind of battled it out a little bit. They argue, which makes sense though, because Fujitora would not is like, oh, the slaves are escaping while all this chaos is going on? Yeah, I'm just gonna let that happen. And so Aramaki, of course, was chewing him out, so they had a little bit of an interaction. Yeah, actually, on better thought, having Fujitora and Aramaki together, their morality scales are like on opposite ends. So, yeah, there was going to be bound to be an argument there. So, Vivi's there in the chair. She's all tied up. She's trying to figure out a way to get away. And you know what, honestly? Vivi might have figured out a way to escape on her own. I mean, what happens, happens, but like, Vivi might have, she's smart. She might have figured out a way to cut those ropes and get away. But she doesn't need to, because as soon as she's wondering about this, you just hear a bunch of screams coming from the wall. And just like, what's going on out there? And then all of a sudden, Wapol just bursts into the room, eating his way through the walls with his Baku Baku no Mi, his Munch Munch fruit. Like I said, he picked a direction, and he's like, I gotta get out of here! Chomp, he's Pac-Manning his way. Waka 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 like through Pangea Castle until he gets outside. And so it just so happened this room that the Cipher Pol was staying in with Vivi was like in his direct line. So Vivi is everybody's very on point this chapter with how they respond. Sabo's like, I'm just gonna burn the Gorosei. Wapol's like, I'm gonna get out of here. Vivi's like, oh, okay, there's my out. And she just grabs Wapol, rides on his back, on his cape or whatever, and then he begins to just munch through the walls, making a way. And Cipher Pol are just so flabbergasted by this. They're just like, what just happened? Who was that? Like, that was King Wapol, I think. All right. Why is he eating through the wall? Where's Vivi? Shit! So I imagine Cipher Pol is probably going to be going after them, but we know what happens with Vivi. She ends up with Wapol at Morgans' place. So, yeah, that's where that's where Wapol's heading, right? Because he's already in cahoots with Morgans, right? So, he's just rushing through the castle, and the last scene of the chapter is Vivi saying to him, he's like, Wapol, where are you going? And he's like, to the furthest ends of the world where no one can find me. And Vivi's like, perfect, let's go. And he's like, huh? And then he's rushing out of the castle, and the last scene is you see Wapol's wife, who's Miss Universe. Her name is Kinderella, and she's seeing, Wapol run away with another woman, and so she's like, oh, is he running away? Is he cheating on me? Having an affair with a mistress? Oh! And so that's the end of the chapter, which ends on a very goofy note compared to the end of the last chapter, but I think it really fits. I think it fits. Also, when Wapol says, I'm running to the end of the world, he meant it like, I'm going to try to find the one place in the world I can find a rock to hide under where the government can never find me. Vivi meant it to be like, oh, you're heading to the end of the world? That's where I'm going. The end of the Grand Line. Laugh Tail, where Luffy's going. Probably that's what Vivi intended. Like, perfect. End of the world, end of the Grand Line, let's go. You know what I mean? Like, so... This kind of ties everything together. Keep in mind, this all took place a month ago, so, like, Wapol and Vivi and Morgans, they might be well into the new world at this point. Everybody's kind of moved around a little bit. But that chapter was insane. That was nuts. I think I'm going to end it here, because there's so much I need to process. A lot of this is just messy in that there's so many amorphous silhouettes going on, I couldn't tell, like, was Im one of those silhouettes? Was Im on the throne the entire time? Because if that's the case, the Gorosei and Im all took very similar forms in terms of the way they were drawn by Oda. Clearly, Oda doesn't want to showcase what they look like yet. We gotta have some mysteries for the final part of One Piece, but I was a little confused by that. But yeah, one of them having the Mercury helmet, that was a find that I didn't notice. The meaning of the D is significant. These will all be discussed in follow-up videos, of course. Great chapter, and no break next week, so see you back here next time, everybody. I gotta go edit this. Thanks for watching. Teching, signing out. Woo!